theological pipe.
I've been expecting you.
There is a God, and
I speak German.
I'm not him.
Taboo or not taboo? That is the question.
Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
Theological sports.
I don't believe what I just saw.
Welcome to another episode of Theological Pipe. This is Theological Pipe, but it's going to be Theological Sports, and I'm glad you're here. I wanted to talk a little bit about Spencer Rattler, the quarterback for Oklahoma University, and the quote-unquote controversy of him being booed in their last game. OU has not looked good. They are they were a national title contender coming into this season. Spencer Rattler was a Heisman Trophy contender, and there was all indications that they should be. Returning a lot of stars. Spencer Rattler looked really good last year. He has another year under his belt. So I don't think that they were overrated. They are overrated now after 4 weeks. They've played 4 games. They had a also ran game. I don't even know, Western Kentucky, Wisconsin. I don't even know who they played. I can't even remember. But they destroyed that team. But there are other games that they've played Tulane and struggled against them and could have lost that game. They've played Nebraska and struggled against them and could have lost that game. And then they played West Virginia, and again, without a benefit of a horrible snap on West Virginia's last drive, they could have lost to West Virginia. And none of those teams are teams that I would consider to be even good. And if you're going to make the argument, hey, Nebraska's better, they're terrible. Tulane's not a good football team. West Virginia's okay. But I was thinking about this. If you were just to take, and I'm going to use Oklahoma State, that's where I went to school. I talked about them last week as well. If you were to take Oklahoma State and look at the wins that they've had, they're 4-0, just like the Sooners. And the Cowboys, I think, now are ranked 20-something. I don't care about the rankings. I think the rankings are kind of silly to rank teams so high at the beginning, and then because some teams maybe weren't ranked, they're still ranked low, even though they should be ranked higher. Arkansas should be ranked really high. But be that as it may, Oklahoma State, let's just look at their resume. Again, they played, I think it was Missouri State, their first game. They won by 7 points. I think it was a horrible game. They looked really bad. Second game, they played Tulsa, and they struggled in that game. Spencer Sanders didn't look good. Spencer Sanders, the Cowboys quarterback, didn't look good at all. But they won. And that win doesn't look as bad anymore because TU has played a pretty tough schedule. And then the next week, TU went to Ohio State. And even though the score looks like Ohio State blew them out, that game was really close up into the fourth quarter. TU played really well. So a close victory against TU doesn't look as bad. It's still not good. You still want the Cowboys to look better than they did. Their defense looks good. Their offense looks really bad. And then the Cowboys went to Boise State last week and beat Boise State 21-20. And again, Boise State has lost like 10 games out of the last 100 in Boise. And Oklahoma State won 21-20. They got their running game going. Their defense again looks good. That's a really good victory no matter how you slice it. But again, their offense didn't look that good at all. But you take the win when you can. And then this week, Oklahoma State played Kansas State, a team that is actually pretty again, good. I'd say maybe they're the equivalent of West Virginia, probably better than West Virginia. And they, the first half, they were dominant, and then they kind of coasted to victory. I don't think Kansas State ever was in any really danger of possibly coming back. I think they won 31-20. But if you look at the Cowboys' resume, they have a good win against Kansas State, a really good win on the road against Boise State. Again, it was ugly, but when you're on the road against a team that's only lost 10 times in the past 100 games, you take the victory. And then a hard-fought win against a TU team that may be a little bit better than we thought. Not impressive by any means. Oklahoma State, I'm not trying to pump them up and say Oklahoma State should be rated higher. That's not the point. But when you look at OU, if you were to rank victories for Oklahoma, and we're going to get to Spencer Rattler in a minute, the booing part, that's what we're getting to. But if you look at Oklahoma's games, if you were to rank the quality of wins with OU and Oklahoma State, let's throw out the games against, I think it was Western Carolina and Missouri State, whoever OU's, easy scrimmage-like game was. Let's throw out those two games. I would say the most impressive win out of anyone, from OU playing Tulane, West Virginia, and Nebraska, and Oklahoma State with Boise State, Kansas State, and Tulsa. I think the win at Boise State is the best win out of any of those games. So I think that's a really, I don't want to say quality win, but it's a good win on the road. I think beating Kansas State is better than any win that Oklahoma's had, again, because Nebraska's trash, Tulane's not any good, and West Virginia is okay, but I would say that Kansas State's better than West Virginia. That's just me. Now, that may play out differently as we go down through the season. And so the two most impressive wins are Oklahoma State beating Boise and Oklahoma State beating Kansas State. And you can make an argument that maybe beating Tulsa is equivalent of OU beating West Virginia. And again, for OU to struggle the way they've struggled offensively with one of the greatest offensive-minded coaches ever. I mean, Lincoln Riley's a genius. And I am still not going to sit here and say that OU is going to lose and they're not going to win the Big 12. I don't think the Big 12 is very good. And it's very possible that OU is going to roll the rest of the way and they're going to catch fire and we're going to forget about these early season struggles. But it's not just a game or two. This is 4 games. And so in this last game, Spencer Rattler was being booed by the home fans of OU. Now, I will say I don't think I've ever done boo. I just think that's weird. Like, I've been mad. Like, maybe I've booed a ref before. I don't think I've ever booed a player, let alone a college player. It's just not what I do. I mean, I get emotionally invested in the games, but I'm not mad at the players. I think they're trying their hardest. I think they want to win. But he was booed by the fans, and he was asked about it, and he said, hey, I'm concerned about what's going on the field. And the thing that is odd to me is on Saturday after the game, on Sunday, and then today for all day when I've listened to sports talk radio in the area, that's all they've talked about was the booing controversy. Like it's some big deal to boo college players. And it blows my mind. Like, there are way more important things that OU needs to worry about. Their shoddy offensive playing, the way that they can't, they've had the lowest offensive output the past couple games. This year, their offense isn't good. I know their defense is better, but look who they're playing, and there's still some breakdowns. The fact that they've allowed Tulane, Nebraska, and West Virginia at home to stay with them, and the game is in doubt up until late into the fourth quarter, that's more important and should be a bigger topic of discussion as opposed to, they booed Spencer Rattler, not Spencer Sanders. I think OSU fans probably boo Spencer Sanders too. But they booed Spencer Rattler. And you have, there's the sports animal, there's the franchise, there's the Buzz, there's all these local sports talk places in Tulsa where I'm from, and they originate out of Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And all the hosts, the majority of them went to OU. They're OU fans. They try to pretend that they're objective, but they're covering it from like, well, you don't understand what this is doing to a recruiting standpoint, and you don't understand this hurts the players' feelings, and you don't understand this makes the players mad. And right, number one, again, if you want to boo, knock yourself out. If you don't want to boo, don't. But don't be a professional sports journalist, a sports host to come on and say you shouldn't boo the players because it hurts their feelings. You shouldn't boo the players because it might hurt recruiting. Really? At number one, if you're booed, I would hope that would light a fire under you. I hope Spencer Rattler, I keep getting the Spencers messed up. I would hope Spencer Rattler is angry. I would hope that he's furious. I would hope that he doesn't want that to happen again. And I hope that it would turn in him some competitive fire so when he comes out and when they play Kansas State next week, that he just lights the place on fire and throws for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns and runs for another one and can say, take your boos and shove them. That's the kind of competitive fire. But to hear that the players are upset and you shouldn't do that, like, what are we talking about? This is a game. And you root and cheer for your team. And again, I'm not a booer. I don't boo. So if it's to boo or not to boo, that's the question. I don't boo. But I'm also not going to sit here and criticize people that boo. And remember, College football's changed. It's not a bunch of kids anymore. Spencer Rattler makes commercials now, and he's driving around in 2 brand new cars that OU, and I'm going to say OU donors, OU alumni, OU friends, they gave him it. He's going to make 6 figures probably as a college football player. Not to mention that he gets a free education, top-of-the-line tutoring, top-of-the-line like nutrition programs and weightlifting things, preparing him for his career in the NFL. So you know what? Booing him, if that's going to be the biggest topic of conversation, and again, that blew my mind that every time I was working today, but every time I turned on the radio, they were talking about the booing controversy. Not talking about the games, not talking about now they touched on the games a little bit, but always went back to Spencer Rattler being booed. No talk of Oklahoma State being 4-0 and getting ready to play a 4-0 Baylor team. No talk of Oklahoma State's pretty dominant defensive performance. Now, again, someone will say, oh, well, they talked about it a little bit, but not a lot. And the hosts drive the show. And the fact that they were complaining about the booing. Now, there was a couple hosts, I'm not going to mention their names because, I didn't listen a whole lot, but there are some that, hey, fans can boo. That's what they do. When you get angry, you boo. But it was the hosts that were approaching it not from a player standpoint saying, he's got to get better and let's hope the boos motivate him to be better. It was the ones that were saying, well, it's hurting his feelings and the players are angry and upset and you shouldn't boo because it could hurt the team's morale and it could divide the team and it could cause recruits to what? That's what you're talking about? You're more of a fan than a host. You need to try to be at least a little bit objective and say, you know what? Maybe he deserves to be booed for the way he played. And again, I'm not a booer, but he deserves criticism. He deserves some vitriol. I know vitriol is a bad word, but he deserves that. He hasn't played well, and that would be the thing. Say, listen, they can boo me all they want because I haven't played very well, and I'm letting myself down. I'm letting the team down. I need to play better. We need to play better. Let's go do this. We're going to take those boos and turn them into cheers. Do something like that. I just think number one, it's ridiculous that there's criticism of people who boo. I think it's stupid. I think it's silly. I think it's childish, but. Aren't sports fans childish? Don't they dress up in paint? Don't they wear cheese on their head? Don't they sit there and do chants and do first down things and wave the wheat and clap like nuts every time Boomer Sooner plays the most annoying song in all of sports? I mean, we're going to sit here and act like idiots, act like fools, act like children, and then the hosts are going to get upset. The sports hosts who are fans of a school are going to get upset because you're booing their quarterback who's not playing well. This was a national title contending team, and they still could win it. I still think they're going to win the Big 12. I don't think the Big 12 is that good of a conference still. But let's lay off this whole, well, fans shouldn't boo because it's sad and it makes them mad. Boo all you want. If you want to boo, boo. Again, just even me saying boo just sounds dumb. When did we ever decide that when you were unhappy with someone, you would go boo? And that would be like, ooh, man, they're booing me. Let's get real. But again, it's sports. There's competitiveness to it. If fans want to boo, let them boo. If fans want to cheer, let them cheer. And if you're a sports host and you're sitting there criticizing the booing because you're afraid it's going to hurt your precious university, grow up. Man, be more objective than that. And again, I'm not a boo guy, but we're in a different age. These kids are getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're driving around in free cars. If you don't think that plays on a guy's mind, again, a guy who goes to the game is probably halfway drunk when he gets there, is painting his face, is wearing the gear. If you don't think that he's watching those players and seeing the commercials of them driving new cars and hearing the reports of them making hundreds of thousands of dollars and then they're not performing, you better believe there's going to be some booing going on. And so I think, number one, let's be adults about it. Let's say, you know what? They boo. It's going to happen. Let's get better. And again, the fact that on Saturday, Sunday, even into Monday, that's the biggest topic of conversation is the quote-unquote booing controversy. I heard that numerous times on different sports talk radio stations. And what's the controversy? I mean, if this is where we're going, no wonder, people call people snowflakes all the time and they can't handle it. My gosh, it's a boo. go play better and they won't boo. How about that? So that's my report. Again, I was going to talk a little bit more about the Big 12. I think, again, you're looking at, Texas looks like they're better. They overcame their loss from Arkansas, and Arkansas, again, looks really good. So that loss doesn't look as bad because Arkansas went in and won some games and is ranked, I think, number 11. So I think Texas, and Texas has been playing better ever since they switched quarterbacks. So I'm not going to say Texas is back because they always have a habit of doing something stupid and making people mad and making their fans mad. And I bet you their fans boo too. But they're better. I don't think they're as bad as we thought. Again, Oklahoma State, still not sold on Spencer Sanders as like a quarterback that can lead them to the promised land, but it's possible. I think they played a lot better at Kansas State. We'll see how they play again this week. They play Baylor, two undefeated teams. Now, if they beat Baylor and beat them, I don't even want to say handily, just beat them at this point, I think then they can start maybe looking, hey, maybe we'll be a little bit better than our first few games showed us. Again, Baylor, Texas, Oklahoma State, there's OU, they're still good. And then I think some of the teams that people thought were going to be really good, like Iowa State, man, what a disappointment. They have 2 losses now and don't look good at all, in my opinion. And so when that was one of the teams that they were touting it, they might be a national title contender. They might be someone that could dethrone OU. I don't see that happening. Now, they still might dethrone OU, but then no Big 12 team will go to the playoffs if that happens. So I think the Big 12 is interesting. I've said before, I don't think it's a good conference, but it's entertaining. And again, I love it because I'm an Oklahoma State fan. I follow OU too because I lived in Norman. Went to a bunch of games there. My wife works at OU, etc. It's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens. But, if this is the level of sports talk radio that we're going to have is for 3 days, and I guarantee they'll be talking about it tomorrow for 4 days, it's going to be a controversy that people booed somebody who wasn't playing good, and the hosts are sitting there complaining because it might hurt the university. Then that's just weak, and we need to elevate the conversation a little bit, and maybe get into what's going to happen in the games as opposed to a little bit of booing might, affect some recruits or something like that. So, anyway, recruiting is that's one of my most unfavorite subjects in the world when they talk recruiting on any station. But anyway, that's my Big 12 report, I guess. I'll have a couple more podcast coming up. I think I'm going to try to do like a tech review at some point and talk about a few other things. But for now, again, sports is a gift. That's why I talk sports. This is Theological Pipe, even though now it's Theological Sports for this episode. And again, sports is a gift. The word recreation is recreation. It allows us to just decompress and forget about junk. We can forget about bills, and we can forget about the division that's going on in this country. We can forget about politics. We can forget about problems that we're having, and we can just sit there and watch a game and cheer and act like idiots. And if we want to boo, we can boo. And I think that it's a gift from God. He gives us that to help us get through life. So I say all the time, thank God for sports, thank God for college football, thank God for the Big 12. It's a gift. So thank you, Lord, for sports. I'll have a couple, again, probably once a week. I'm going to do at least one podcast on the Big 12 or in sports in general. And I'll try to mix in a couple other ones about some other things coming up. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Or thanks for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for watching on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcast or iHeartRadio or Spotify or wherever, click subscribe as well. Give me a good rating. I appreciate it. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Well, bye.